The sharp scent of cinnamon coffee always signaled that my family was putting on a performance. It was exactly 6:32 on Christmas morning when the illusion shattered completely. I woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps outside my door, accompanied by the distinct scrape of luggage sliding across the hardwood floor. Sitting up in bed, I froze when I saw a massive trash bag sitting right in the center of my room, an item I certainly had not placed there. My mother knocked 3 times before slipping inside, her face entirely devoid of holiday cheer as she began aggressively tossing my clothes into the plastic bag. Before I could even process what was happening, my father stepped into the room, his eyes cold and detached as he snatched the heavy bag and shoved it hard against my chest. The force of the blow knocked me back against the wall, sending a framed family portrait crashing face down onto the carpet. "Pack your things and get out of our house," he growled, delivering the longest sentence he had spoken to me in over 3 years. My mother didn't hesitate, gripping my elbow tightly and dragging me down the stairs toward the glowing Christmas tree. She marched straight to the fireplace, ripped my personalized stocking off the mantel, and threw it into the roaring flames. As the fabric turned to ash, she spun around to look at me, her voice dripping with years of unprovoked resentment. "You have managed to ruin every single holiday since the day you were born," she said, her expression disturbingly calm as she added, "We never actually wanted you here." Standing on the staircase was my younger sister, Chloe, who was already busy recording the entire eviction on her phone for her thousands of social media followers. She giggled behind the screen, telling her audience that this was happening live before turning her camera directly toward my face. "Good luck trying to survive on your own," she mocked, "because absolutely nobody in this family is going to miss a worthless burden like you." I didn't scream, and I didn't waste a single tear on people who had spent my entire life calculating my worth down to 0. Instead, I quietly picked up a small, beautifully crafted walnut box that my grandfather had handed me years ago, stepped out into the freezing snow in nothing but my winter socks, and drove away. My destination was the local branch of Northern Trust, where the manager immediately locked the front door behind me and guided me into his private office. "Sit down," he murmured gently, "because what I am about to show you is going to completely undo every cruel thing your family just did to you." Before we get into how my grandfather managed to dismantle their lives from beyond the grave, make sure to support the channel so you never miss a story. To truly understand how a simple wooden box could hold the power to destroy my parents, we have to look back at the quiet savior of my childhood. My grandfather, Arthur Vance, was a master woodworker who spent decades running a small cabinet shop that smelled perpetually of fresh cedar and old coffee. When I was just a little girl, my mother would drop me off at his shop for hours, while my sister was chauffeured to expensive after-school enrichment programs. My grandfather would gently take my backpack, hand me a piece of sandpaper, and teach me his ultimate philosophy. "Sandpaper must always move with the grain of the wood," he would tell me, "and you must learn to handle difficult people the exact same way." The real trouble began the summer my grandmother passed away, which prompted my parents to quickly sell our modest home and move into my grandfather's spacious estate. I was only 15 at the time, but I vividly remember overhearing my mother whispering to my father in the dark hallway, telling him to just endure the living situation because the old man likely only had a few years left. They were already calculating their inheritance before my grandmother's dynamic had even settled, treating my grandfather's generosity like a countdown clock. The toxic mathematics of my family dictated that my sister received private schooling and endless praise, while my existence was treated as a constant financial deduction. My grandfather saw every single piece of manipulation, including the time my mother publicly slapped me at a family barbecue over a missing bracelet I hadn't even touched. He had quietly led me away from the crowd, pressed an ice pack to my burning cheek, and told me to save my tears and document absolutely everything. The very next day, he presented me with the small walnut box, which featured my name carefully burned into the lid, instructing me to keep it sealed until I truly needed a way out. He managed to protect me through 13 subsequent Christmases, intentionally keeping me occupied in his workshop so my mother would have fewer opportunities to claim I had ruined the day. When he finally passed away from a rapid illness, my mother attended the funeral service crying louder than anyone else in the room, yet her eyes constantly darted toward his bookshelf where the important financial documents were kept. What she completely failed to realize was that my grandfather had already visited his attorney years prior to ensure his true legacy would bypass her entirely. Sitting in the bank office, the manager pushed a thick blue folder toward me, revealing that the entire estate had been placed into a private living trust. The sole beneficiary of that trust was me, meaning the very house my parents were living in had legally belonged to me since the day my grandfather passed. The bank manager smiled warmly as he revealed a secondary account containing $86,000, which my grandfather had meticulously saved from cash commissions to cover future home repairs. Even better, the folder contained a detailed log of the 3 separate occasions my mother had stormed into the bank demanding access to the funds, only to be turned away. My grandfather had explicitly warned the manager that if my mother attempted to claw into his estate 3 times, it meant she was preparing to do something incredibly cruel to me. He had even secured a comprehensive title insurance policy, ensuring that any legal challenge my family attempted to mount would be fully funded by the insurance company. The manager then led me into the secure vault to retrieve the final piece of my grandfather's plan, a long metal safe deposit box containing a personal letter and an old brass key. Unwrapping the key from a piece of soft flannel, I opened the handwritten letter and read the steady script of the only man who had ever truly loved me. "I am so deeply sorry that I cannot be there to protect you in person," the letter read, "but I saw every single ounce of mistreatment you endured. The house is entirely yours, the money is yours, and you must never apologize to the people who treated you like a burden." Automated with the legal proof of my ownership, I immediately retained my grandfather's longtime attorney to initiate the formal process of reclaiming my home. We drafted a strict 30-day notice to vacate, classifying my parents and my sister's boyfriend as unauthorized tenants who were unlawfully occupying my property. A professional process server arrived at the house a few days later, handing the legal paperwork to my mother while she was in the middle of hosting a neighborhood Bible study. She foolishly tore the documents in half directly in front of the server, completely unaware that the entire interaction was being recorded on a secure body camera. My mother tried desperately to hire a local lawyer to fight the eviction, but every attorney who reviewed the ironclad trust structure told her she didn't have a single leg to stand on. When the 30 days expired without them moving a single box, our legal team filed an immediate summary eviction complaint with the district court. The judge took less than 5 minutes to review the deed and the trust documents before ordering my parents to completely vacate the premises within 2 weeks. My mother, completely consumed by her own perceived internet stardom, decided her best option was to live-stream the final eviction day to gain public sympathy. She sat gracefully on the living room sofa wearing a pure white sweater designed to project innocence, while my sister adjusted the studio lighting to capture the impending drama. Over 60,000 live viewers tuned in as my mother wept bitterly, claiming her ungrateful daughter was throwing her out on the street during a holiday week. However, she made a fatal mistake when she tearfully admitted to the camera that she had burned my childhood Christmas stocking to teach me a lesson. The comment section instantly turned into an avalanche of disgust, with thousands of strangers demanding to know why a mother would ever do something so vicious to her own child. Right at that moment, the deputy sheriff knocked on the front door, stepping inside with a formal court order to execute the immediate removal of everyone inside the house. The live audience watched in absolute shock as the officer loudly announced that the entire property belonged exclusively to me, giving the family exactly 30 minutes to clear out. My sister's face drained of color as she realized her massive internet following was witnessing their ultimate public disgrace in real time. My father simply walked out to the porch, sat down on the snow-covered steps, and softly admitted to the camera that the house had always belonged to me anyway. Today, my parents are trapped living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment above a noisy local business, having completely drained their savings on my sister's private education and failed investments. My sister lost every single one of her lucrative brand endorsements within a week, and her influencer boyfriend dumped her via text almost immediately after the scandal broke. I finally moved back into the beautiful home my grandfather built, discovering a hidden box in the attic containing a beautiful wool stocking he had hand-stitched for me in secret. Walking away from a toxic family isn't an act of surrender. It is simply letting the truth finally settle exactly where it belongs.